Well, Lohen is about to arrive. Interesting how, a couple of weeks ago, many has still been saying Lohen's going to be a standard character, so that diverted many of your pooling decision towards him. But while after the confirmation that he's still going to be a limited character, I guess things changes for many of you regarding Lohen, which is where in today's specific video, we're going to be touching a little bit on Lohen's specific investment, especially toward his either signature Constellations investment wise, for those of you who are interested to invest more into him, because honestly speaking, we haven't seen a really cool male character with a slight bit of eccentric personality like Lohen in a while, so honestly I am quite excited for him myself. Lohen and Mavuika is here, and even Sandrone is on the horizon, and I know that many of you are trying to get them. So if you're planning to swipe for pooling, then don't forget to check out Loot Bar. After a month of maintenance to make their server even safer than before, Loot Bar is finally back. The top-up process remains safe and simple as always, with over 100,000 orders and so many good reviews at this point. You can be sure that Loot Bar is trustworthy. Here you can see my order receipts of all of my top-ups that I have done. There will be a link to Loot Bar down in the description, so be sure to check it out, everybody. So let's touch on what his signature and constellation actually do. With base stats of a 674 and a 22% crit rate as a secondary stat. For the passive, whenever you gain the Path of Conflicts from the weapon's passive, you get a 40% normal and charge attack damage increase, as well as a 40% E skill and burst damage increase. Now, when Path of Conflict is active, every normal and charge hits will allow his elemental skills and burst damage increase uptime to be increased by 1, and vice versa. So technically this is made for Lohen, basically constantly attacking within his master stroke. So both buff is expected to have a constant uptime. Now the big change is regarding the Hexray comps, because with this, instead of getting a 40% damage increase, you get a 75% damage increase instead. So basically what his signature does is it gives him decently a base attack increase, 22% crit rate, and technically a 75% constant damage bonus across the board for him whenever he is in a Hexray comps. What C1 does is mechanically C1 increases Lohen maximum word to win limit to 300% of its original value, so from 100 to 300. Now every time a nearby party member deals damage while he is in master stroke, they accumulate 500% as much world to win for him. So at a C0 level, your teammate generate world to win at a normal rate, cap at 100, and at C1 they generate 5 times faster and can bank up to a 300 before you can cash out. Now, before we touch on a little bit of numbers, what the rest of his constellation do, wanting to touch on a bit of a C2 for those of you who are interested. C2, basically Lohen gains Evil's Bane for 4 seconds. The next normal charge attack hits in Master Stroke will triggers an AoE cryo follow-ups, dealing 500% of his attack, and also granting nearby party members a 200 EM increase for 8 seconds. Now the EM buff is really good, especially when we are using him a lot in melt reaction teams. C4 basically has 2 effects. The first one, when Lohen unleash Manifest Judgment while in Master Stroke, his world to win is maxed out automatically, meaning this instant of burst always get the maximum possible damage increase. And then secondly, when he switch to Master Stroke mode, if his energy is not full, he will recover 15 energy. However, if energy is full, the next burst within 15 seconds recovers 15 energy after casting. So that fixes energy economy issues, as well as a bit of instant nuking for him. And then at C6, while it is obviously 4 wells, but basically it does 4 things. Using Edge into Bones and Soul or unleashing a Manifest Judgment to consume no world to win, so you basically keeps all your stacks. Lohen's Joy is maxed out automatically. After that, the next Edge into Bones and Soul within the window extends Master Stroke by 1.25 seconds. Other than that, the crit damage of all this is increased by 175%, and the number of times that he can unleash Edge into Bones and Soul during Master Stroke is increased by 2, so basically from 3 to 5. So yep, that is C6 for you. Basically no resource management required for you, more nukes, and 175% crit damage increase. Steroid for the dude. Honestly, I need to look more into the specific numbers of how much of a difference C6 Lohen is going to be increased compared to many of the other C6 character, because this is actually looking really broken. However, we are focusing on mostly signature C1 and C2 in this video because most of you are probably going toward that. So let's touch on a bit of numbers. So before we touch on the numbers, there are a bit of setup context regarding the teams that we are going to be making the baseline of. Now the benchmark everyone is running for Lohen right now is his premium melt team. So basically Lohen on field, Nico as pyro support and shielder, Durin as the biggest off-field damage contributor, and either Shilonen or Sitlali as the flex slot. Now what's important though in Lohen's team specifically is Durin is the biggest damage dealer in this team. Lohen is basically the on-field driver, but he counts for less than half of the total team DPS. So Lohen provides cryo for Durin to proc melt, where Durin is going to be the character that triggers the reaction damage. So with the calculations, C0R0 Lohen with a solid 4-star poem being the deathmatch is going to be our 100% baseline. With that, here are some of the numbers different at the current point. For a signature weapon, you're looking at roughly around a 15 to 20% each increase from a C0 level. For C1, if you're investing into that only, it's going to be around a 12 to 18%. C2 R0, if you're looking at just an increase from C1 to C2, then that's going to be around a 10 to 15% increase above his C1. And for those of you who are going for both C1 and his signature, you're getting roughly a 30% to 40% increase from the baseline at the current point. Overall, his signature and his C1s are somewhat close in terms of damage increase, maybe a couple of percentage, around 45% difference, though overall it is still high, which is where signature is still going to be the best recommended investment if you are going specifically toward the Lohen wise. However, that is if we are comparing this of a baseline toward him using a 4-star weapon, because obviously there are alternative weapons that you're probably going to be having, especially the 5-star, and that for example like the Jade Wind Spear or Staff of Homa, some of those other options. Now the gap between his signature and the other 5-star potential weapon can be around 10 to 15 difference. It is going to be quite a bit. However, it's not going to be way too much. So if you've got a well-invested Jade Wind Spear, for example, and potentially you have some refinement to it as well, so the damage gap is going to be even less there, which is where potentially you are going to be able to focus a lot more on investing into his constellations, for example. So overall, what it means is that if you're looking specifically into Lohen wise, then a signature is still going to be a decent investment overall, while depending on your account situation, of course, if you don't have the other 5-star options, then you can go ahead and get this for him. But if you've got other options, focusing on his constellation of investing into either C1 or even C2 is going to be rather wow. However, there are another very important thing regarding Lohen wise is regarding his team comp investment. Because as we've mentioned, Lohen is not a character that's going to be dealing the most damage on your team. It's more toward a driver. So technically speaking, investing into your other sub DPS or even supportive character can potentially yield him even better results. Specifically regarding the constellations of Durin, who is going to be the character that deals the most damage within Lohen's team, or even Nicole if you're going for her C2, those kind of constellations are really good. Where investing into Lohen are for those of you who are really into him, knowing that you're going to be using him for a very long time in team comps building situation. But for investing into Nicole and Durin specifically, those are going to be a lot more efficient in terms of your Primo Gem usage wise, because Durin and Nicole can be used in many other teams, not just Lohen's. And still in specifically Lohen's team, the overall value can be equal to or sometimes even greater than you specifically investing into Lohen. So honestly, it comes down to your personal preferences. We're just laying out all the information out there to potentially help you out. So technically what I would honestly do is, if you don't have a really nice weapon for him, most likely I'm just going to be investing into just getting his signature, and I would honestly put the rest of my Primo Gems into increasing the other teammates within his team comp like Durin and Nicole. Because if you're early in watching this video, you'll potentially still have a couple of hours left before Durin and Nicole banner disappears to actually finish off making your decision. Other than that, you're probably going to be having to wait for their rerun. And while if you can't wait, then yes, C1 R1 Lohen is pretty decently good. Still not too bad of an investment regarding his team comp specifically. So yes, that definitely comes down to your decision wise. So if you do have any questions, leave it down in the comment sections, and I or some other lovely Genshin player can get to you specifically to help you out. Now if you're still on the fence of whichever to be investing in during the phase 2 of Lunar 7, or save up for future banners, characters, and I've already discussed quite in depth in this specific video here to help you out. Again guys, if you are new to the channel, you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on our future Genshin videos. With that, I wish you a super day, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.